All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome on this Super Bowl Sunday for a quick chat about Bitcoin and where it's been, where it is now, and where it is potentially going in the very near future with the one and only Dan Held. Dan, how are you today, man?
Thanks for having me, dude. Glad we could sit here, have a drink right before the Super Bowl. I think we both got.
I know we're gonna start a little early. I haven't poured mine yet. I
Yeah.
have a bottle of tequila right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour as people stroll in into our little chat about Bitcoin. Man,
Yeah.
Dan, you and I met probably a long time ago, going back to the days of the New York Bitcoin Center. I remember using your app back in the day, Zero Block. Uh,
Man.
that was a while ago, man. You've been in the space longer than me. So how's the journey been? Just like in two sentences.
I've got gray beards on my chin, and I'm 32 years old. So I think that kind of sums it up. It's been a wild run. I mean, we've been through so many cycles, you and I. Like, there's been so much. Cheers, by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's been so much. I mean, just like think about like when Gox got shut down, like when Gox collapsed and Silk Road got shut down, and just all these different moments of crisis of faith. Like, is Bitcoin going to survive this? Mt. Gox was 90% of trading volume. That'd be
Right.
like losing Coinbase, Kraken, Bitfinex, and all those combined, and Binance. It'd be like losing all of those at the same time. So yeah, Bitcoin's been through a lot. I think I've never been more bullish than now, though. I mean, in terms of risk reward, like how big and strong the network has become, and the community, and the price versus the risk, I think it's an awesome spot.
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally with you, man. Oh, I forgot to tell you ahead of time. I know you have your own podcast on YouTube. I'm gonna give you permission to, if you want to record this, go for it.
Oh,
If you
cool.
want to cut something out of it later on and throw it in, that's up to you. Uh, it's up to you if you want. This is just going to be a laid back conversation. Of course, Dan Hell doesn't need much of an introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. Go ahead and talk a little bit about yourself. I got your Twitter here. I got your newsletter. I got your YouTube channel. So as you describe yourself and your history, and I'll just flip through the tabs.
Cool. Well, for those who don't know me, my name's Dan Held. I've been in the space for 8 years. I've worked at 5 different crypto companies, sold two, sold my first one to blockchain.com. That was the Zero Block product, the most popular mobile app back in 2013. It was pretty simple as a price tracker. Um, from did a bunch of different companies. My last company got acquired by Kraken. I currently lead growth over at Kraken. I've always been a Bitcoiner. Sure, I went and I mined and tried other things, but Bitcoin has always been my love, my passion. And over the years, you might have heard about some of my writing that I've done around Bitcoin's origin story, Bitcoin's proof of work function, and all sorts of other things. So I think that's what I'm most well known for, not the products I've built, but what I've talked about Bitcoin wise. I think my talent is to be able to explain different Bitcoin topics simply, which is it's a big feat. It's tough to talk and boil things down to their essence. So yeah, it's been a wild 8 years. You can find me on Twitter. That's the best place to find my fresh content. I'm pretty forward, so you're just going to get the raw Dan Held vibe there. There's also the Dan Held Substack. This is my weekly newsletter that comes out on Thursdays. So I launched this 3 months ago. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. People love it. I've got 14,000 free subscribers. So that's 140,000 investors and traders across the world follow me on different social media channels. 14,000 free email subscribers signed up in the first 3 months, which is wild. And then also have added a paid tier. So if you pay for it, you get it once a week. If you get the free version, it's once a month. But if you want to understand my kind of raw, intimate thoughts, you want to hear what I'm thinking about next in Bitcoin, this is the first place to get it. And then I hop on great channels like this, Peter McCormick, a bunch of my other buddies in the space, and we go talk about these different things.
Yeah,
So
him and I don't really get along at the moment, but
I know you guys, I know you guys don't, but I like both of you. We could still be friends separately. Yeah, it's hard to go by in crypto and not rub some folks the wrong way. So I've got a bunch of people that don't like
oh, it
me.
has nothing to do with our crypto disagreements.
Oh, I know.
It's all about politics. Hey, I'm actually going to subscribe myself because I don't believe I'm subscribed. So there you go.
Oh, nice, dude.
Um,
Well, you can, yeah, try the free one, and if later you wanna
yeah.
you wanna pay for it, then you can do that.
I'll stick it to this for now. There's no need to put my credit card number in on a live show. I've doxed myself enough over the years.
Yeah.
You also recently launched your YouTube channel, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's been kind of a funny exercise coming up with the thumbnails for these videos. You've got like a pro guy who designs yours, but I make these myself in Photoshop. Yeah. So this channel, what I do here is the newsletter publishes the content first, and then I go screen share, walk people through the newsletter on Saturdays or Sundays. And that's what this YouTube channel is about. So if you're more of a visual person, you like to hear things versus read it. Like you don't want to read it. You want to have someone explain it to you. This is a good way to get my newsletter in video format.
All right. So now that the introductions are out of the way, hey, let's glance at the Bitcoin price real quick. Now, it's not going to be a price show, but we were looking great yesterday when we, on a small scale, hit 41,000 and down we went. And right now, I'm pretty bullish as well, and so is Dan. Everyone goes to this channel for the price show, but Dan, you're not really an active trader, but you're more of a macro guy when it comes to the price, and we're going to talk about the macro picture of the price. But right now, I am bullish across all time frames, guys, but there'll be a price show tomorrow. And on this note, we're going to talk to Dan about, you know what, the Bitcoin super cycle, which is a term that you like to use quite often. Is that something like you kind of, I don't want to say invented, the word super cycle has existed, but is that the term you popularized in the crypto space, like the way I did with unconfiscatable? I'm sure someone has said the word before me, but I hope my name is in the dictionary one day when that word shows up.
I think that's exactly what it is. I'm sure a bunch of folks have used the term before I did, but I think I'm the one who popularized it and kind of put my name behind it and talked about it. And the core essence of this is that Bitcoin could be entering something called a super cycle. Now, I've been in a long time, you've been in a long time, and I've seen a bunch of things happen. In 2013, we actually had 2 bull runs in 1 year. So that was pretty interesting. So I would consider that to be kind of like a super cycle-esque phenomenon where it doesn't feel normal. It's in a very intense price movement. So Bitcoin, it's throughout its whole existence, has never had a bull run while there was a macro bear market. So we have COVID going on in the mainstream financial world, and that, really shakes people's perception and trust in governments. It shakes and then we had money printer go burr at a scale that we've never seen before. I mean, Bitcoin has had these speculative bubbles, these price run-ups during this very good time period for the mainstream financial markets. But now is the moment when the whole world is starting to question, should I save my money by buying government sovereign bonds? Should I put my money in cash? Should I trust my government? And the answer is people are starting to wake up to this reality and go, no, I can't trust them, and I need Bitcoin for that. So I think that's a very distinctively different backdrop to this Bitcoin bull run. Also with this Bitcoin bull run, we have the institutions as part of the new believers of hodlers who are coming in, and they have hundreds of trillions of dollars of wealth that they manage. And part of that is going to flow into Bitcoin. And as negatively yielding bonds. So like there's $18 trillion of negatively yielding sovereign debt. $18 trillion that's worth negatively yielding. That's insane. When these institutions look at allocating their money, like what's more attractive, Bitcoin or a negatively yielding sovereign bond? So I think we're going to see a huge influx of capital into Bitcoin. This will be a quintessential bull run, but a very different one with a lot more money to flow in because you have the institutions now. Plus, you have a larger retail audience. Bitcoin has never been easier to understand. You and I play a function in this, and many others do in this space, explaining Bitcoin, making it easy to understand, easy to use, and it's never been easier. You can buy it. Now, I don't recommend buying it in PayPal or Robinhood because you can't move it out of there, but the accessibility is there, which is important. So I think never before we've seen that. Plus, we have things like lending and borrowing. So what happens in a bull run if no Bitcoiner sells their Bitcoin? They just borrow dollars against it. The supply shortage gets more and more more and more finite as less and less hodlers are willing to sell. I mean, in the previous cycles, the only way to make money on your Bitcoin would be to sell your coin, but now you can borrow against it, going essentially on margin. So I think this cycle is really different. You also have no other competing narratives, right? You have Bitcoin as a gold 2.0, but there's no ETH, ICOs. Those aren't really narratives. Sure, there's DeFi, but it's a more minor technical narrative that none of your friends at home are talking about. No one's talking about DeFi. Like, I've got buddies back from Texas. No one's hitting me up about DeFi. They're hitting me up about Bitcoin. So I think this cycle is very different. That's why I think we could maybe see it go above expectations. So, go past these 100K price points and maybe keep going higher, maybe even touch like high six figures or even $1 million, just touch it. Or we could see like a normal cycle, but no bear market. Like, what if it goes flat after the bull run? People always assume it's going to drop, but what happens when the whole world is trying to buy a seat on this lifeboat and Bitcoin's the only lifeboat? I don't think you're going to see just this like pure speculative hype play out, because people need it to store value in it. They're not just speculating on its future potential as a store of value. They're utilizing it right now.
Oh, hey, Dan. Oh, mic issues.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
You may want to unplug and plug your mic back in. Your mic is cutting out a little bit, and I actually just lost you for like a good 30 seconds. Not 30 seconds, but like 10 seconds. So just double check on Zoom that you're using that particular microphone, and maybe plug it back in and out. Nope, no audio.
Let's see. How about
okay, now you got it. Now I got you.
Good.
All right, cool.
All right.
Also, okay, I got a bunch of questions. I actually, the one thing I really agree with you on is I myself, several things I agree with you on. So for the last several months, maybe even a little more, I've also been talking about how this particular bull run. Now, when you say Bitcoin supercycle, you mean this 4-year period between the halvings, correct? Let's.
Yeah, I would say like the super cycle would begin, basically 2020 through 2024.
Right. So
that time period
between the halvings, yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And I also believe that this particular, so I'm gonna use your terminology. I also believe that this particular super cycle is very likely to replicate what happened in 2013 with a double bubble. However, I don't expect it to be of the same magnitude. The 2013 double bubble was basically 100x move, where Bitcoin went from $10 all the way to 1,000. I do not envision a 100x move. I would be very happy to see a 20x move, but more realistically, a 10x move. And I treat the move as coming out of the $10,000 consolidation. So even a 10x move from 10,000, takes us to, a pretty damn nice number. That takes us all the way to 100K. And something I would be happy with. And that is my low level target right now. All my targets for the price of Bitcoin drastically skyrocketed based on what happened at not so much COVID, but mostly what happened over the election. I'm not going to turn this show political, but in general, I can only speak for myself and a lot of the people in my circles where prior to the election day, I was the guy making fun of the gloom and doomers that the US dollar will not hit hyperinflation anytime soon, because I always envisioned hyperinflation as a political event, not as a currency event. It never mattered to me how much money the US government prints. It still had the most trusted political system. It had the most trusted economy. It had the brain. It was the beneficiary of a brain drain where anyone smart from China and Russia would find a way into America to start their companies, things like that. But my outlook on all of that flipped 180% after what happened in the election. And now I do envision a potential path for hyperinflation, because I think that America is no longer going to be respected globally. It will not be looked upon by the rest of the world and many of its own citizens for honesty, transparency, stability, I see the brain drain leaving the US. And it's not that I see any single country absorbing the brain drain. I see people, myself included, if I'm on that tier of 100, above 100 IQ, which is still debatable, I'm not sure, I haven't checked it, of just being more transient, more of a digital nomad. I don't see America being the beneficiary of a future brain drain. And all of these things are just perfect for Bitcoin to absorb and give people more confidence. Your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, people think that Bitcoin is volatile, but it's not. The Bitcoin protocol is stable. It's one of the most stable things in this world. And what we see as the price volatility is actually more of the volatility of the world ebbing and flowing into the stability of Bitcoin. It's more and more people waking up to the realization that Bitcoin can be this stable way to store value, this way to preserve value. There's only 21 million Bitcoin. The protocol does not change. And this is something you can rely on, something you can trust. Yes, the value changes, but the parameters around it don't. And when it comes to, these political environments, we're seeing huge amount of change happen. I mean, we've got different folks like, Biden, like talking about raising capital gains, raising income tax. You've also got like the idea of a wealth tax being floated around in California where they could tax your total wealth, not capital gains or income, which is insane, which is also why I'm leaving California. So I'm
by the way, when they floated it, they said they could tax anyone's global wealth if they spend 60 days in California. So even if they're not a U.S. citizen or a resident, they come on vacation and they spend 2 months in California. They can get their whole their life savings taxed.
I mean, bullshit. I mean, it's bullshit is what it is. I mean, there's no way people would adhere to that. Like also if you're a student and they would be able to claim it for like 10 years or something nuts. So I'm ready to get out of here. I'm actually moving to Texas. I haven't really announced this more widely, but I'm moving to Texas in around May. So that's going to be a big leap for me. I'm originally from Texas, spent 25 years there. So time to go back to Texas, hang out with some people that are kind of normal and not insane.
Yeah, no, I spent some time in Austin recently. Huge Bitcoin community. It's unfortunate how liberal Austin is, but that's okay. But still, Texas is still better. I got my own. I got a lot of stuff in the works as far as the living situation, which I'm not disclosing at the moment yet. But awesome that you're getting out of the People's Republic of California.
California.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ready to get out of here. So all of this sets up a really bullish case for Bitcoin, right? You've got increased taxation. You've got folks worried about trusting their government. Like people started to, when people started to question their government's decisions around COVID, well, that bleeds into their decisions around money and everything else. So I think it sets up, I mean, I've got friends and I've got family. I mean, I've got my parents who are very conservative and also like not really conservative minded around Bitcoin, waking up to going like, we got to put our money in Bitcoin. Like this is becoming the reality. Even the boomers are starting to realize this, which is huge. And so I've never seen this before in Bitcoin. I've been around for 8 years. I've never seen this much like normies on the street going, I get it. I get it. I get why it's valuable. I get why I need it.
No, I agree. And I personally have never been as bullish on Bitcoin as I am now. Even back in 2017, when I was trying to calm people down and I was bullish, in early 2017, when everyone was getting scared about the big blocks and the big fork, and I was bullish, I'm more bullish now than ever before for so many reasons. And it's absolutely great. How do you remember those early 2017 days of, just as the user activated soft fork was becoming an idea of calming people down and reflecting back on it, we were pretty damn confident in something that even the developers thought was risky.
Yeah, I mean, people forget that, like how stressful that time period was. There's a very contentious moment. I mean, I've never been more stressed than during the Bcash hard fork. Like the community was brother against brother. It was a kind of a brutal struggle. I mean, Roger bought my first company, Zero Block. He's the one who bought it from me on behalf of blockchain.com. So like, it was a weird moment to have to go through this, but I'm like, he's clearly wrong. So I'm sorry, but it is what is going to be. it was a brutal struggle, and we weren't sure. Like a lot of the companies were very much misbehaving as well in terms of the New York agreement and like how Coinbase was treating the fork, where Coinbase held both coins for a while. Some really sort of shady things that went down. I I think Bitcoin is in such a better position after that. Like going through these moments of like Mt. Gox collapse, a Silk Road seizure, civil war. Like these were really intense moments. Oh, China banning Bitcoin, the endless, the endless cycles of China banning Bitcoin. I don't know how many times you could reban it again.
Right. We went from China banning Bitcoin to China having control of all Bitcoin mining. Notice how it like flipped completely.
It's a classic FUD argument, right? The FUD of China controlling, China not controlling. It's this endless cycle of FUD.
I want to back up to a specific statement you said a minute ago when you said Roger was clearly wrong. How did you know that? Because because just like myself, you're not crazy technical. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I have my coding experience. I have a master's in financial engineering. I've coded some stuff. You see the giant VBA book behind me. That was my best programming language is Excel VBA. My second best was C++. So I do know how to code, but I'm nowhere near an expert. I was a terrible coder. So, but which people did you kind of, I mean, we came to our own conclusions that Roger was wrong, but we're right. But that conclusion still had to be reinforced by other people on our side of the Civil War. So which people were you like entrusting in, yes, Roger is definitely wrong?
Yeah. So one was, I mean, my own understanding of this space since building products in it since 2013, right? Like I'm a product mindset sort of guy. And what that means for the non-technical folks, yeah, I'm like you, Tone. I'm not an engineer, but I work with engineers when I go build products. So I've worked in both a product marketing and a growth product perspective of like, I work with engineers to go build products within an app or within a website that people use to solve a problem. That's what all products do. That's what Google does. That's what Facebook does. That's what Apple does. That's what every company does is they solve a problem for someone. When we look at Bitcoin and its protocol, what problem is it solving? It's solving the problem of trust. I have to trust the central bank. I have to trust my bank. And what Bitcoin does is it solves that problem of storing value. The unchangeable monetary policy, the hard to seize nature of the asset, and the immutability of sending any transaction or value you'd like to anyone in the world. That's why it's valuable. When you look at it from a payments use case, I sat down there with the blockchain merchant wallet and I tried this. I mean, I was there in the dinners with Roger and would go talk to people about it all the time. And it wasn't solving a problem. Their existing payment methods worked fine. Now the merchant liked it. The merchant was like, great, I have like lower transaction fees. I have lower chargeback risk, but it's a two-sided market. You need the spender and you need the merchant. And no one wanted to spend their coin. If they expect the price to go up, why would you spend it? Also, it's prohibitively expensive to use it and very clumsy. It is harder to use, slower, and more expensive. So why would a consumer do that? It didn't make any sense. I saw it firsthand, the hundreds of times that we played around with it. I mean, I was in San Francisco and we'd talk about, oh, well, maybe payments might be an interesting way to use Bitcoin. And just, I've saw very early on in 13, 14, like this isn't working at all. Also for me, like I'm a gold bug. So for me, it was always gold 2.0. And I'm like, well, if the VCs want us to talk about merchant payments and stuff, and that's how we raise money, and that's what I'm being paid to do, then sure, we'll go play around with that. But as we saw with all those companies failing, in that use case failing, it very much validated the idea that like Bitcoin's value prop is not that. So it was both from a product mindset and then also from like, for example, like guys like Stop and Decrypt, Jameson Lopp, they were really influential on how I looked at, okay, well, because there's a sliding scale of like, okay, well, what if we increase the block size? Sure, it seems innocent at first. You're like, why not? Let's consider it. And they had some really good arguments around how it decreases decentralization. It opens up political attack vectors, all these sort of aspects that I think they rounded out my technical knowledge on the topic. So hat tip to those two to help me out there. Yeah, and then whenever you have something that has product market fit, you don't want to tinker with it and mess with it. If Bitcoin's protocol is solving the problem of storing value, which is $100 trillion plus problem, there's no need to tinker with the engines on the rocket ship. We don't need to swap them out mid-flight. It's going. We already went past the moon. We're going to Mars. It's working. let's not, we don't need to tinker with it and like hypothesize it would be maybe useful for payments when we see that no one wants to use it for payments. So for me, it was very intuitive. I mean, it doesn't take that. I mean, it's a very basic premise. It almost requires, I think anyone can understand that concept. It's not even a technical one.
All right. So let's move on to the future. We talked a little bit about the past. Good to reminisce, but let's talk about the future. I'm a little concerned right now that if Bitcoin, let's say, does fly to $100,000 in the next few months, and that's only the first of the two bubbles. You know, first of all, speaking of the company that bought Zero Block, they still don't have SegWit, for God's sakes. And how's that for insanity? But are you an avid user of the Lightning network? Because I am not. I have not used it much yet. Just a few sample transactions here and there. I need to get, my shit together and be more of a user of the Lightning network, because Bitcoin does need to scale for payments. I mean, every time Bitcoin gets to a bubble top in price, that's when people want to start using it, and they start using it. The blocks are fairly full, which is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. But Bitcoin does need to scale to payments. So what is your experience with the Lightning Network? Are you an avid user, and where do you see the payment side going? And you're muted.
Would you be okay with me sharing my screen? I've got a cool visualization.
Oh, I got no problem at all. I might have to give you permission, though. There you go.
Okay. All right. So I work with a designer, Sven, on these really cool graphics. So this is a graphic that I put together based on Murad, inspired by Murad, a legendary trader in the space.
Yeah, we got to get him back into space one of these days.
I know he's kind of licking his wounds a little bit. Look, we all make mistakes. We all have failures. It's fine. I think he'd be very warmly embraced if he came back. So Bitcoin has to go through different stages. So on the right, we have time. On the left, we have price. Of course, this is not supposed to be taken literally. This is just a visualization. But Bitcoin goes through different stages in its life cycle. It first starts as a collectible, and then it becomes a collectible / store of value. And that's kind of where we are today. It's being world recognized as a store of value by institutions, by even the central banks. Like Jerome Powell said, Bitcoin is a speculative store of value. This is huge. After it goes through those stages, that's when we can get to the medium of exchange and unit of account era. And that's when Bitcoin's price is in the millions to 10 million. It's final epic. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this. I'm sure folks are getting a little bit dizzy now.
You got to be able to pause it.
Yeah, I know.
Or you got to get your designer to kind of redraw it 3 times and then just leave it.
Yeah. Well, we try to make it visually compelling, right? Most Bitcoin stuff is very boring. So I'm trying to capture people's excitement. Anyways, so the reason why it has to go through the store of value stage first is no one wants to transact with it unless they hold it. So we need a very high market penetration and ownership of Bitcoin before it enters that medium of exchange unit of account era. So right now, Lightning, I think, is a great piece of technology to enable more functionality for Bitcoin. Is it required for Bitcoin to accomplish store of value narrative? No. Is it part of the ultimate adoption of Bitcoin as a full world money? Yes. Over decades, I think it becomes increasingly important. As you see populations, let's say 50% of the population now owns Bitcoin, it's much, due to that network effect, then medium of exchange and unit of account eras become much more applicable, because now you have many counterparties who would want to sell or buy things from you for Bitcoin. And you also have Bitcoin volatility decrease as it increases in value, say to $1 million a coin, $10 million a coin. It slowly decreases in volatility, which means that things will be priced in it, and people's mental model of what value is becomes anchored in it. This takes a long time, 5, 10, 20 years. This isn't something that happens overnight. I mean, people, they grew up with fiat money their whole lives. It's a really tough thing to get through. And I think it's a very generational thing. Baby boomers will die off. The younger, more millennials and Gen Zers heavily allocated into Bitcoin. Their minds are completely molded by it. So yeah, I think medium of exchange, Bitcoin as a payment method is very early. It eventually will happen when it stabilizes and a high percentage of people own it.
All right. Uh, so okay, so back to the other question. Have you used Lightning?
I have. I really like Blue Wallet. It's a really awesome wallet. It is custodial, so they are managing the Lightning channels. Non-custodial would always be the preferred way to go. I kind of consider my Lightning wallet as a cash in my pocket wallet. I where you can sort of have decreasing layers. I mean, that's where how Bitcoin is going to scale is you've got layer 2 and other layers on top of that where trust is, you have to increase the amount of trust, but you decrease fees and you decrease friction, which is fine because the base layer can be like the container ships and the cargo containers can be like lightning transactions, as Nick Carter uses his analogy, which I think was a really good one. You don't need trustless systems for my coffee payment. I don't need to put my coffee payment on a permanent immutable ledger for everyone to see forever. And I don't need to have it be completely trustless. I don't give a shit if they try to like charge back my coffee payment or something. It's like, fine. What I need trustless is my savings, my value, the global amount of value, the billions and trillions, and that's what needs to be immutable. No one cares about if $5 on chain has a little bit more trust. And by the way, Lightning is still trustless. It just has, a tiny degree of a little bit like less trustworthy than layer 1 confirmation.
Right. And that's one of the big, FUDs around Lightning, that it's not a real Bitcoin transaction and that it's not decentralized. And I think both of those things are false. I think Lightning is just as decentralized as Bitcoin, maybe a smidge less, but that's not a big deal. I also think Lightning transactions are more private than Bitcoin transactions, and a lot of people just completely ignore that.
Yeah, people don't, realize that like Lightning has a couple unique advantages that are distinctly different than Bitcoin, like privacy, because it has like an onion routing-esque feature, like with Tor, where essentially you're sending your transactions through multiple other Lightning channels. So I think that's a really cool function. And there's other really cool things as well, where like, there's all sorts of like more smart contracts and scripting that you can do with Lightning. And so, yeah, do I think Lightning is necessary? Do I think like a high level of adoption of Lightning is necessary for Bitcoin to succeed in the next 4 years? No. Do I think it's a good thing to have? Yes. It's a nice to have. I don't think it's a need to have for the next couple of years. Over the next 10 years, it's a need to have, as if Bitcoin wants to truly be an all money, the store of value, the medium of exchange, and the unit of account. But, I think a lot of people are kind of like really worried, like, oh, if I can't use it to pay for things, it's not going to be valuable. I live in fucking San Francisco, the quintessential gold rush city of the world. It is literally, that's what it was back in the 1800s. Nowhere in this city can I spend my gold. Not one store in the former gold rush city of San Francisco. Gold is worth $10 trillion. It doesn't matter. Now, Bitcoin is far more advantageous than gold. It's more transportable, divisible, and verifiable, which makes it both a good store of value and medium of exchange type currency, which it can eventually, grow into. It's like it's a young child right now, and it's a young adult. And once it reaches its maturation, its later stages, then it can kind of mold into that. And that's where Lightning is key.
Oh, okay. We do have a couple of questions coming in. This will be a hard question to answer. We're going to back up a little bit since both you and I think that Bitcoin has a shot at doing a double bubble like the 2013 one was. And the question is straight up, how come Bitcoin is set up for a double bubble scenario in this cycle? What are the economic reasons? Are there other examples in traditional markets concerning double bubbles? Well, the last one, I don't know of any prior examples. I can take a quick shot at this question first. The reason why I am looking at this double bubble kind of scenario is mostly the global economic and political environment and all the money printing and the SegWit. Remember, there were two catalysts back in 2013. The first catalyst is actually what got me into Bitcoin. And that's the catalyst that I'm so happy that I own the brand Unconfiscatable, because that's I heard about Bitcoin in 2011 when Dan was already building his app. I heard about it in 2011 because of the Ron Paul campaign and watching RT and watching Max Kaiser. I remember paying attention to Bitcoin in 2012, but it was the Cyprus events of 2013 that got me, that was my aha moment. That Cyprus event where money was straight up confiscated from the bank, that where I made the realization that Bitcoin is the only unconfiscatable asset to protect your money. Now, at that time, I was paranoid that the government can take away my retirement money, my 401k. I am less paranoid of that today than I was back then, but it got me into Bitcoin due to the unconfiscatable property. And then when the Cyprus events were over, I think that the major second catalyst, well, of course, it was the Bitcoin went up in October, November of 2013, right after the Silk Road closure. I think the Silk Road closure and the shutdown of Silk Road removed and again, this is so like this is where Roger went off the rails. Like going back and just thinking logically, the shutdown of Silk Road completely removed Bitcoin's biggest like transactional use case. And the transactional volume of Bitcoin just dried up because no one knew what was going on. Everyone kind of got scared and took a step back. The price of Bitcoin started exploding, but then there was another catalyst early November of 2013. I can't believe I remember these things so well, but that was, that was back when I was reading every single Bitcoin article that ever came out on any publication that was publishing articles back then, which was basically CoinDesk, because there wasn't much else. CoinDesk and some aggregate random websites, because Cointelegraph wasn't even around. It was the Senate hearings. It was the November Senate hearings where the senator that led the hearings seemed so curious and genuinely interested to learn whether Bitcoin is like the internet. And those hearings were incredible. Probably the best Senate hearing about Bitcoin was that 2013 hearing. And all those catalysts created that double bubble.
Yeah, I mean, the Silk Road example is so perfect. If Bitcoin's value is driven by its transactional use cases, why did, after Silk Road got busted, why did it 10x a month later? And why did the adoption of Bitcoin 10x after the number one transactional use case of Bitcoin collapsed? It's store value, number go up technology is the adoption curve. That is what drives incremental adoption. That is what drives more believers and more people into Bitcoin. That's what drives the price going up. That's what drives security budget. That's what drives developer resources, company resources, volume. It's all this perfect viral loop. And yeah, it was perfect. Like it showed exactly that thesis was wrong. It was the unconfiscatable nature of Bitcoin. That is what people saw as the aha moment. I remember the Cyprus stuff. That was really big. I think that was the summer of 13, right?
That was April.
Yeah. That was big news back then, where they're talking about like, ATMs like didn't have any cash in them and all sorts of crazy shit like that. That's where people started to wake up to like, what if we need this thing? What if we need this thing called Bitcoin? It's not coincidental that Bitcoin was planted during the 2008 financial crisis. I mean, Satoshi put in the first block, the only message he ever etched into the blockchain, UK Chancellor on the verge of second bailout for banks, because he's like, fuck the banks. This is bullshit. Like we need a money that is not, we don't need trust to rely on it. And that's where he talks about his first public, like right after the white paper, the first thing he writes in the first paragraph, all the existing system, it all requires trust to make it work. We have to trust the central banks. We have to trust the banks. We have to trust the payment processors. Bitcoin solves the problem of trust. And that's where like in this moment, post-COVID, or like during COVID, we're starting to wake up to like, holy shit, like our government has no idea what they're doing. There's so many trillions of dollars being printed everywhere. What's going to happen to the value of my dollars? Well, it's definitely going to go down. And Bitcoin is an antidote to this very bad banking policy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So back to today, I think that the current global political environment is such a mess, we are witnessing that first bubble. And I don't know what the catalyst will be for the second bubble, but it's going to be whatever screw ups they make in this first one. Because they will screw up the first one. We're in the middle of a first one, and we're witnessing why. Because people want a safe haven. They're having less trust in their government. And who knows what the catalyst for the second double pump will be. But it will be something that we will talk about years from now as being totally obvious. But because it hasn't happened yet, we just don't know. All right. Hey, Dan, Super Bowl is going to start soon, so we are going to speed this along. I'm going to go back to screen share because you released a video just a few hours ago before coming on the show. And the title of that video is the Crypto Mass Extinction Event. And being a geologist, which was my first degree, actually, before I went on to Wall Street, I find that very, very interesting. It's also funny when people say, oh, Bitcoin is a dinosaur. And you're like, well, yeah, they kind of ruled the planet for how many millions of years? And they probably still would if it wasn't for a meteor. Not exactly their fault. They're not at the top of the food chain right now. But yeah, so Bitcoin's going to be around for a little while. So that was a great little video. Awesome chart that you put together. I'm sure you've tweeted this out several times of how Bitcoin came along. And I'm right there with you. I think you and I could claim that we're in the top 10 of Bitcoin. I don't like to call us Bitcoin maximalists. I prefer the word shitcoin minimalist. I think you and I are in the top 10 of the shitcoin minimalist list. So we definitely align there. So tell us a little bit about the crypto mass extinction event.
Yeah, so there's this terminology. I'm sure a lot of folks have heard about the Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox is the idea that, okay, we've got 100 to 400 billion stars in our galaxy. And then we've got 100 to 400 billion galaxies in the whole universe. That's pretty freaking huge. Well, if you take it for granted that we aren't the only advanced civilization, there must be a certain amount of other advanced civilizations, right? Well, when we look across the skies, we don't see star destroyers. We don't see Death Stars. We don't see Dyson spheres where they would like energy from the sun. We don't see this energy displacement we would expect from a Star Wars-esque civilization. And that's where there's a hypothesis that there's a great filter event. So the great filter event, what occurs in that event is no advanced civilization makes it past that event, or very few do. That's why it's called the great filter. This could be nuclear weapons, could be antimatter weapons, it could be a virus, something like that, right? And as humans, we don't know if we are before that event or after. Maybe we've already survived it. Maybe most advanced life never gets past where we're at now. Or maybe it's ahead of us. Maybe most great civilizations end 100 years from now. Who knows? I think we've gotten past it personally, but we don't know is the point. With crypto, we do know what the great filter event is, and that is taking on governments. That is Bitcoin's ability to survive a state level attack. And that's where, Tony, you had a great article that you pointed me to earlier around some of your thoughts on decentralization. That's where a lot of folks said decentralization is a sliding scale. Sure, but not when it's against state censorship resistance. To be resistant against the state is a binary outcome. You either survive it or you don't. There isn't a degree of like, oh, you kind of survived it. Now, some folks said, oh, well, right now in Venezuela, like Bitcoin is state level censorship resistant. And I'm like, yeah, but Venezuela is like a backwater country. It's not a real geopolitical power like China, Russia, or the US. Those are state level censorship resistant. That is what I'm thinking of when I think of Bitcoin's ability to survive a government. It's those governments, the big, powerful, like the super countries, like that Bitcoin has to survive that to be this truly free money. And when we look across different parts of, and you've got, Dan Tapiro tweeted out a directory there of different crypto assets that you compiled around
honestly, I don't remember that tweet. Like it's, I think his tweet got more likes than my tweet.
It's great because I built a visualization of this too. It's a really hard concept to convey because people look at the top 10, they're like, oh, look at these top 10 cryptos. They're going to stick around for a while, but if you look at them over time, a lot of them fall out.
And that, by the way, that list was not easy to put together because there's no actual database of this. I kept asking around and no one had it. And I'm like, you know what? I gotta build it. So you just gotta look back at every single coin over its history and find what was its highest position on the all-time market cap list.
Totally. And that's where, you and I are old enough to remember all the ones from like Made Safe and shit from like 2013, 2014, and like
I gotta say,
Coin.
what was your favorite? Like what was like the favorite disastrous implosion of all time for you that you were actually, oh wow, this is interesting, and then it totally imploded?
Probably two Aurora Coin.
Yeah, that's my number one.
Because it sounded cool. We're like, okay, it's an airdrop to all these citizens. Like, what if it bootstraps itself? It was interesting, right? We all were like, okay. I mean, there's been a lot of experimentation. That's where most Bitcoin maximalists, we were open to these ideas. We're just old as fuck. And we're just tired of like, people are like, well, what if? And we're like, no, we've already tried that 100 times and it didn't work. We don't need to try it again. Aurora Coin is probably number one. And then, I mentioned this before. I've mined Prime Coin because I'm like, oh, what if it could do something else useful than just proof of work? This was before my understanding of proof of work was, well polished and well understood. That's where, look, most Bitcoin maximalists or shitcoin minimalists, or I would call them rationalists, most of them didn't start with just being a Bitcoin maximalist. We've experimented with all sorts of stuff over time. We just keep coming back to Bitcoin. The more we understand about it, we go, wow, this is really incredible what Bitcoin does. We look at the design parameters of Bitcoin and we're like, I don't want to trade any of those parameters to have these other hypothetical, use cases that we aren't really seeing being utilized. So Aurora Coin and Prime Coin, I actually mined a whole block of Prime Coin, but yeah, Prime Coin eventually was worth nothing. I mean, it was, yeah, I forget what the price is now, but it's no one talks about it, right?
Right. Yeah, so Aurora Coin is my number one, at the top of my list of coins that, wow, this might be interesting. And then it went to number two for a few hours.
Oh, did it really?
It did. It was number two behind Bitcoin. It went, well, this was pre-Ethereum, so it went past Litecoin, and I think Ripple was already around. But I really wanted to highlight five, but there's really only four famous implosions: Aurora Coin, Paycoin, the DAO, and of course BitConnect. Which one?
Yeah, those are some lovely ones. I mean, I wish we talked about this when we first started. I wish Carlos Matos would have stuck around this space. Hey.
Oh, you should have totally.
He's got a beautiful singing voice.
Should have totally stuck around.
But yeah, those were all. Yeah, those are all huge implosions.
So we continue to, educate people. And look, I know that none of these shit coins are going to survive, but there is a 1% chance that I'm wrong. And I always try to explain to people, is it possible that one or two of these altcoins can do something in the future and last? It's possible. But I'm smart enough to know that I don't know which of the 5,000 it will be. So totally. The safest thing to do is to only hold Bitcoin.
The most lucrative option here is to buy Bitcoin. Even if you're not a Bitcoin maximalist, Bitcoin has been the number one cryptocurrency the whole time. It has tons of different parameters that enable its survival. It has network effect, and the return profile is still awesome. If Bitcoin goes to $1 million, that is still a phenomenal return. Will you be able to day trade and find a shit coin that goes up more? Sure. You know what? There's going to be people that do that, but it's going to be a pretty rare event that you're the one who figures it out. I'm a big hodler. Like, I'm not an active day trader. I'm not as smart as yourself and others who like to trade often. I just buy and hodl. I'm not good at trading. I just buy and hodl, and that's worked out well for me with Bitcoin. So, I think when it comes to can you beat Bitcoin's return? Yes, it is very, very difficult, and it is very improbable that you do, though.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and start wrap this up. Let me see if
Cool.
there's any questions that my moderators have thrown in there. Let me see here. People are just saying thank you. Tone, can you please? Okay, sorry. I don't think no. If there's any other good questions, that question doesn't really make that much sense to me, so I'm not even gonna ask. Anything else you wanna mention, Dan? We're gonna once again, I'm gonna pull up your stuff. Dan's YouTube channel, check that out. Unlike me, his videos are actually short, so this is totally followable, and you release videos about once a week. So 20 minutes a week. So you should definitely follow him. Check out these videos. Dan has the Held Report as well. If you're a free subscriber, you get it once a month, like he said. Otherwise, you get it every week. And definitely follow him on Twitter. There you go. This is how you can find Dan Held. Any other topics? Do you have any questions for me? Anything you want to know? You and I haven't chatted in a while, so as good a time as any.
Well, where are you going to go visit next, Tone? I know you don't want to disclose locations, but what sort of continents, or maybe you don't have to mention cities, but maybe countries. What's one of them on the list? You can disclose one of them, maybe.
So I'm going somewhere what's today? Sunday? I'm going somewhere next week, and it's somewhere far, and it's I don't want to disclose the place yet, but it's somewhere where they don't care about COVID.
Nice.
So that means it's a country I can enter without a COVID test, and no one there is wearing a mask, and people there are normal. It wasn't hard. It was not easy to find, but that's where I am headed. So let the people wonder, because I can't. I'm going nuts. I have like my life revolves around travel and human interaction. I'm really enjoying that life, and the quarantine was just horrible.
I think we all struggled with just the disconnect with interacting with other humans. I live with my girlfriend, but it's still, we saw each other alone for 9 months. That's a long time to spend with someone, in isolation versus being up to go out to dinner and socialize and whatnot. So yeah, we went to Aruba for New Year's, and Aruba was pretty relaxed, almost no requirements. And
yeah, we had to do a COVID test though.
Yeah, it was better than San Francisco, which is pretty bad.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Once I make it to my place, and people are already guessing a bunch of places, I will tell you. Someone said North Korea. That's probably true, but that's not where I'm going. You guys have already guessed the country. It has already been listed on the list. But once I make it there, getting out of there to go somewhere else will require a COVID test. So unless the rules change by, say, February 20th or so, I will have to end up taking a COVID test. But I'm about to give away at least the continent. I'm also currently taking malaria meds. So the chances of me actually getting COVID and suffering COVID symptoms have been drastically reduced by the fact that I'm on not hydrochloroquine, but similar active ingredients.
Cool. Well, wish you the best of luck on your journey, man. It's trust me, I'm jealous just thinking about a free world. First time I'm going to go into the next Bitcoin conference I'm going to, I might go to the Miami one, but definitely going to the Dallas one, BitBlock Boom. So
yeah, so I was at BitBlock Boom. I can't believe that actually happened. That was back in August. And looking back at it, we all thought that COVID was about to end, but it wasn't. I am actually also planning to move Unconfiscatable to Miami. I'm not going to align necessarily with Bitcoin 2021. My Vegas version was going to be the weekend before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I may time it again with the weekend before. I don't know. But I am looking to move Unconfiscatable to Miami I mean, West Coast, Vegas is not. I like that. I wish they didn't take these restrictions. Otherwise, it would stay in Vegas.
Yeah. So is that still happening? Unconfiscatable?
It is probably happening. We're talking to a venue now. We're a low, we're not a big convention conference. We're a very low budget event. If we can get, a nice small venue, I have one requirement, man. Masks optional. If I can't pull off masks optional, because if you're doing it at some convention center with union employees, I can't see it being masks optional, even down in Miami, as loose as they are. I have one requirement for unconfiscatable, masks optional. If I can pull that off, it'll happen down in Miami, either late April or early May.
Nice. Well, let me know if it happens. I know you reached out before, and I had a fun time last year. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, we pulled it off. It was right before the COVID lockdowns. It was in
like 2
late
weeks.
February of 2020.
Yeah, you were pretty lucky with that because you've already paid for all the vendor stuff, and luckily that worked out. So,
yeah,
I had a blast there.
And I so underestimated the insanity over COVID that in March I flew out to South Africa, and I was there until March 20th, and I was on the last flight. I was on the last intercontinental flight from the continents between Africa and US.
Oh, wow. That's kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Being the last one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. Keep me posted. Super psyched. It was a great time last year. Would love to be there again. I know, crossing our finger. I'm ready for Bitcoin conferences again. I miss everybody.
Hey, who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl, man? Are you going to watch it?
Oh, man, I think I'm just going to watch the commercials. I'm more of a college football guy. So I grew up in Texas.
Shit, me too. Who are you rooting for?
Well, Texas A&M.
You're Texas, you A&M?
Yeah, A&M, yeah.
You guys got my coach. My team, like I'm FSU. The day Jimbo Fisher went to A&M, we became the laughing stock of the ACC.
It was pretty wild. I mean, we went from Big 12 to SEC. That was kind of a big leap because we were kind of under the shadow of UT, and I think that was a smart move for A&M. SEC is it's the most competitive. Most competitive.
Look,
section.
It makes no sense for you to be in the SEC.
It's a little bit funky, right? We're more of a Big 12, but
yeah.
I think, but politically, I think like it gave us. Let's put it this way: you didn't hear about A&M much before they moved to the SEC.
That's look. Honestly, I think you would be way better known now if you stayed in the Big 12 because you'd probably be in the final four a couple of times by now.
Yes, and for those who don't know what SEC means, this is we're talking about this is football districts essentially is what we're talking about, like football regions in college football. But yeah, I'm more of a college football guy. I'm moving back to Texas, so Texas A&M football games are a blast. They're kind of crazy. It's one of the most intense stadiums to be at for a football game. They're really rowdy, really wild. So Texas is like it's like God football barbecue. And
I'm looking forward to kind of getting man. I mean, we're not that far behind you.
Yeah, Florida is a very similar vibe. Florida's got a very similar sort of culture.
No, but hey, who are you rooting the Super Bowl for?
To be honest, dude, I haven't been watching. I've been so bad. Like I haven't even. It's Buccaneers, right? It's Buccaneers and
Buccaneers, but they have Brady and Gronk.
Yeah. I mean, Buccaneers is like, I've got some buddies who are talking about it. So that's probably who I'm going to go for because it's what my buddies are going for. But, pros, they just pay for money versus like college, they play for like spirit. So I just really love that vibe. So I was never a big pro football guy. I just watch it like we're going to have a couple of friends over, but it's just mainly to crack open a couple of beers, have a good time, and just watch the commercials and talk about it.
Yeah, I'm actually going to get to watch commercials because considering my current lifestyle, no one is allowing me in their house. Due to COVID. So I'll just be watching the game at the apartment. So I'll actually watch the commercials for a change. Usually I'm just, chilling with friends, enjoying the game. But hey, I am going to be back to traveling and wherever I am, you guys know how I do. I just tweet out where I'm hanging out and people are able to come out and grab a drink.
Well, cool. Excited for the next time we can grab a drink, Tone. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, Dan, thank you again for joining. Dan's info is in the video description. Thanks again for dropping by. Oh, people are asking me to take a look at the price. If you have a few more minutes,
Oh, sure.
if you're curious yourself.
I've got a pop because I've got my the Held newsletter has a Q&A weekly, and I've
Okay.
got my first one.
I gotcha. All right, guys. So feel free to stick around. I'll do a 5-10 minute on price, and then we're gonna call it a day.
Cheers, y'all. Thanks for having me.
All right, later, Dan. All right, hey guys. Hope that was a good interview. Haven't seen Dan in person in a while, but of course, COVID had a lot to do with that. Hey, I set up my. So I'm check this out. Let's see if this works. This is my GoPro. Boom, it's working. Here's the GoPro. I was able to set up GoPro as my webcam. So now as I continue my travels, well, that's way too bright. That's way too dark. So as I'm going to be on my travels, I think I will be using the GoPro as my new live streaming camera. Hope that works out. So that was cool. I finally found use for the GoPro that I bought when I was going out to DC to cover some of those protests. So there you go. All right, let's go to the charts. I can do a really wide angle on this. This is the most zoomed in I can make the GoPro, and it's actually closer to me than the other camera that I was using. So hopefully this would be a good video. The microphone, I actually using the same microphone that I was using earlier, but yeah. So hopefully that, because every single webcam on the market is terrible. They're terrible. There's no such thing as a good webcam. I'm so convinced of that. Oh, what tequila am I drinking? That's right here. So this is a pretty good tequila, but what makes this tequila special is that it does come from a bourbon barrel. So it's not a regular tequila. So this is a reposado. I don't normally drink reposados. I usually go for añejos or above. But there are special reposados. Also, like a Casa Azul reposado is a classic, very high-end reposado. But this is a reposado that is more expensive than the traditional añejo from the same company, because it was aged in a bourbon barrel. So that's always awesome. When you can occasionally find tequilas that get aged in whiskey or bourbon barrels. They're absolutely incredible. So if you're ever at a big store and you talk to them, just ask them if they have any tequilas that have been aged in former in whiskey or bourbon barrels that were used to age whiskey or bourbon. And those tequilas are absolutely excellent. All right, but other than that, like things like this, like Jose Cuervo, is a tequila that people make fun of, but the Family Reserva, Jose Cuervo is a very underestimated tequila. This bottle is about $125. This bottle was a present, so thank you so much. And very good bottle for $125. Great value for the money. All right, let's go to the charts. Have I tried port wine? Yeah, of course. It's hard to get a really good port wine, though. Let's go to the charts. Super Bowl starts in 20 minutes. Okay. So, man, we are flirting with that number right there. I want to see a close above this green line. We are 1 hour away from the close. Though technically, I can lower the green line. We just got to close above that number. This is 38,000. All we got to do is close above $38,200. And we will maintain the weekly bull market in full. I remain fully bearish. It was absolutely incredible how the MRI pinpointed the top on the hourly chart. I called this in real time. Now, in real time, I did not think the drop would be this severe. I didn't. I would have told you guys if someone asked me, do you think there's going to be a big $3,000 drop, more than 3,000? I would have said no. I did not think the drop was going to be that bad. This was a drop of $3,600. I did not see that coming personally. I thought that the drop would last at least 3 to 4 hours, but at most half a day. The drop actually lasted a day and a half. And I do believe we bottomed. Like I said in the beginning of the show, I was bullish across all time frames. This green star gets me bullish again. I would have thought that we would be reversing right here. We made this sneaky drop. I would have also thought that right here, even though it is a rejection of a moving average, I would not have expected a drop below these lows, but dropped we did. So it's a good thing. I am simply sitting in GBTC and I couldn't even trade it. But right now I am bullish. I do think we're going to close the week above 39,000. And I think next week is going to be a very good week. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. Sorry, it's a daily chart. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. We're going to go backwards now. Here is the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart came a little bit late on calling the MRI top. It missed it by one candle. But you guys know my trading style. I do not trade the bullish candle that follows the MRI top for this very reason. We were not able to break the resistance line, which is actually really good. We were able to back test the cup and handle, which is also very good. If I go to a new tab and I put in cup and handle pattern, and if I find the right picture, let me see. Yeah, none of them are showing a back test. A back test does occur occasionally. Right there, boom. There it is. So here's a picture of a cup and handle, whatever website this takes me to. Right there. I can't pull it up, but you can see how you have a breakout, a pullback, and then a move to the target. Hi, Julia. How are you? See, this is why you don't go to, this is why you shouldn't go to strange websites. And, but here's a breakout. Here's a pullback. And then the ultimate move to the target. And we just had the back test. So now I believe the move to the target is ready to begin. We had the back test and now we're ready. And when we break this line right here, the resistance line, we then have a clear path to reach the $45,000 target. Let's go to the daily chart. This is a beautiful candle in the making. We only have 46 minutes to go. We don't have to close this candle as a bullish candle. And this is a good sign. We just had a decent correction. I believe that's probably about 7% down, 9% down, even better. And I do think we are on a pace for one more MRI top, the second consecutive daily MRI top. Now, keep in mind, the last time we had a second consecutive daily MRI top, the price of Bitcoin ended up correcting for 30%. And we still have not broken out above the highs. We're very close. And this took place in the beginning of January, and we are now in the beginning of February. So it took a month. So pay very close attention. If we do make it to the second consecutive MRI top, do I think the second consecutive MRI top is going to be in the 60s? Probably not, because that's what I'm waiting for on the weekly time scale, which could take a few months to achieve. So maybe we get the daily second consecutive MRI top in the high 40s, low 50s, a pullback to the mid to low 40s, and then one more push for the weekly triple consecutive MRI top in the mid to upper 60s. All right. And that is pretty much it. The futures market should be open. I'm curious where gold is at. Gold is trying to claw back up, but I remain more bearish than bullish on gold. The S&P is doing well. I am expecting higher prices of the S&P, mostly because I have no more confidence in the American government, and neither do the people, and therefore they feel like their money is safer in Apple and Tesla stock than anything having to do with the government. Elon continues to be trolling around Dogecoin. Farhan, you have a couple of questions. The daily is also looking like a cup and handle. Can you check that out? I will. Also, can you check Ross Ulbricht Supercycle in confluence with our double? I mean, I'm not familiar with the Ross Ulbricht Supercycle, so I'm not going to go Googling for it. But thank you for mentioning that. I can glance at the daily chart and see if I see a cup and handle. This is the daily chart. I do not see a cup and handle. I only see a cup. We may get a handle in the near future, which means we would delay the breakout by about 2 more weeks. And if we do get a cup and handle on a daily, it means we need to get to approximately 42,000, close at approximately 42,000. Though we could close at approximately 41,000. See, the close is significantly lower than the prior close. We have $1,000 difference in the close, $2,000 difference in the close, and a $1,000 difference on a swing high. I would like them to be a little bit close to each other. So we would need a little bit more upside, and then we would need a good, week and a half of drop back down to even lower lows than we had this morning or yesterday. So I do not see a cup and handle on the daily. Why do you think Elon is trolling about Doge? Honestly, I think he's bored. He clearly doesn't have enough to do between Tesla and SpaceX. He clearly has way too much time on his hands. You asked for an opinion, you got an opinion. It's a little bit buzzed opinion, but it's an opinion. I haven't eaten yet. I got to go make food, and I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. Like I said, I just think Elon's bored, and he seems to have an unreasonable amount of time on his hands. The shitcoin death watch. Yeah. So the Bcash is my proxy for the shitcoin death watch. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, this is getting close. Start biting your nails. So this is the lowest weekly close for Bcash, and it's coming. It's coming. I think it's coming. Look, ideally, I want to see a weekly close below 1%. But even if we trade below 1%, I think the death watch has been accomplished. All right, guys. Hey, that's it for me. Check out this article if you haven't read it yet. This is what is crypto decentralization and why Bitcoin stands alone. This is the best argument I have as to why it will only be Bitcoin in the near future. Once again, sometime this month, my prices will rise. If you are interested in learning the basics of trading because you feel like taking a shot at the gambling world that is the stock market or the crypto market, check out the on-demand videos. If you are interested in the MRI, which is one of my top tools to identify movements in the market, tops and bottoms, and even continuations, check out the indicator section of tonevays.com. That is it for me, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Please follow Dan Held. As you can see, I am still using the GoPro. You can see the GoPro as versus my current camera. The lighting on the GoPro is actually better. Interesting. I have the same light here, but this is the difference between the two. That is also a really good SLR camera. Zoom is what is holding me back. Zoom does not let you stream in anything higher than 720. So while I have the 1080p GoPro and the 4K SLR camera, because I do stream through Zoom, I am limited to the 720 HD quality. If I was gonna make my life totally miserable and use OBS, I can probably get this done in 4K or 480p, but I choose convenience over 4K quality video. And thank you so much for watching. And hopefully when I'm traveling, we will now have better video. Boom, right there. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all on the next one. Subscribe. I'm on a mission to get 100,000 YouTube followers. Bye, guys.